I'm pretty confident that we could make extensive lists of stuff that matters in a happy marriage, but that also matters when you're building a modern competitive firm. And I'm equally certain that at the very top of both those lists, we would find the very same item, namely people. If you fail in the recruitment process of your marriage, and a lot of Scandinavians do, look at the stats, no number of family therapists will help. The same is true when you're trying to build a competitive organization. Fail in recruitment, and not all the McKinsey consultants in the world can save you. When man doesn't know, what does man do? Well, when man doesn't know, man believes. Some believe in Obama, others believed in Osama, some still believe in the Pope in Rome, and others in Paris Hilton. Human beings believe. We crave meaning. We hate meaninglessness. And great leaders, I think, have always been really pragmatic about this. If people want something to believe in, you must provide that, so that they can believe in themselves, the work that they do in you and in your organization. And that's why we see so many of these peak-performing organizations having something that I think you can call a corporate religion, a set of beliefs to which people can attach themselves. At the very core, at the very center of these religions, you typically find a dream. And I think it's important that it is exactly a dream. You see, there were reasons, good reasons, for why that guy, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., once upon a time said, "I have a dream." And why he decided not to say, "I have a 5-year plan." Dreams are powerful. They lift us up to where we belong, and they matter. All human beings are becoming increasingly stupid. I don't know if you noticed this morning when you woke up, you were a little bit more stupid than you were yesterday evening, right before going to bed. Well, let's put it like this. There's good news and there's bad news, okay? Let's begin with the good news. The good news is illustrated by the white line. As you can see, it grows at a linear rate. The white line is there to illustrate the fact that over time, human beings actually become a little bit smarter. Over a 10-year period, average human IQ increases by about 3 IQ points. In essence, we don't know why, but we can see it in the statistics. The white line illustrates something that I think many of you have suspected for quite some time, the fact that with a very high level of probability, you are a little bit smarter than your parents. It also suggests that in all likelihood, your kids will become a little bit smarter than you. I know it may not seem like that right now, but we have to be patient, okay? Of course, not everyone is predestined to become smarter than his or her parents. Personally, I would still put my money on the older President Bush rather than the younger. The not-so-curious George, if you know what I mean. But as a general principle, this seems to work. It's called the Flynn effect, after Professor Flynn, who was the first one to discover it. Now, that was the good news. Now we can deal with the bad news. The bad news is illustrated by the red curve. As you can see, it grows at an exponential rate. It is there to capture all the knowledge, all the books, all the gurus, all the stuff that you find on the internet, etc., etc. And it's growing at a much faster pace than any single individual can keep up with. In effect, there is a growing gap between what we know and what I know. Or put differently, we're all becoming increasingly stupid, relatively speaking.
How do you start by creating this innovation and thinking that you show us here?
I think the principles are the same. I wouldn't say that there is any difference if you're 5 or if you're 500,000. The principles are the same. In a lot of organizations, you get to the top by being an expert at what was important yesterday. And that also means that your entire power base is built on something that you probably wouldn't want to change too much, because then it will disappear. So a lot of leaders sort of join this status quo fan club, and you don't want to see any movement at all. But the smart ones, of course, always make sure that there's an infusion of talent. There's MBA, which is not Master of Business Administration. It stands for Married But Available. There's a slightly more active form, which is MBL, that stands for Married But Looking. And I think that's the kind of mentality you need today. Yes, you're married to your current partners, to all the promises you've made, but in addition to that, I think we should be a little bit more promiscuous. We should be married but looking, find mistresses and lovers that basically act as options for the future.
You also talk about a corporate religion, that you need to inspire not only your employees but also the customers and so forth. But if you're sitting here and thinking, I'm no Martin Luther King, I can't make I have a dream speech, where do you start if you want to, let's say, establish that kind of passion?
By making sure that when you pick what to do, you focus not only on what you're skilled at, but also what you're willed at. I mean, I think historically you could be successful so long as you focused on something that you had a talent for. I don't think that is enough anymore. If you look at the huge number of engineers, MBAs, mathematicians, whatever, that comes out of places like China and India today, skill, yes, but in addition to that, you also need the will. And I think we see so many organizations that are realizing this, and it's having a profound impact, I believe, on HR, for instance, where historically you hired people for skill and then try to train them for attitude. You brought in some smart engineers and then you tried to brainwash them into believing in the corporate culture of this organization. Smart organizations today hire instead people for attitude and then train them for skill, because the half-life of knowledge is coming down so fast that you have to retrain and have to retrain. And without strategy and planning as we know it, sort of rule-based, very strict stuff, you need something else that ensures that people collaborate. And I think shared values, a shared mentality, shared attitude, that constitutes that organizational glue that enables you to move in one direction rather than having 100 self-playing pianos playing different tunes.